Madam Speaker and members, I rise in opposition to the confirmation of Mr. Maldonado. It's being suggested that we should be nonpartisan in our approach to this vote. And it gets me wondering, well, what does nonpartisan mean? Well, the governor and the leader of the Senate and Mr. Maldonado and some of my colleagues on the floor say that if you vote to confirm Mr. Maldonado, then you are truly nonpartisan. In fact, the Senate leader, after a Senate confirmation hearing where the Rules Committee voted to recommend confirmation, the Senate leader said, I hope Democrats, or he warned, I hope Democrats don't turn this into another nonpartisan squabble, I believe was his quote. Yet I would suggest to you, members, the process that created this nomination could not have been any more partisan. It is quintessential backroom politics where power brokers gathered behind closed doors carve up the political goods. And there's a lot to carve up. Republican governor gets to replace a Democrat with a Republican. And not just any Republican, the Republican who, loyal to him, went against both parties in order to allow the governor to get what he wanted. The loyalist senator, Mr. Maldonado, gets his plum and the advantage of incumbency in an election that's coming up in less than 90 days. And the Senate leader gets a seat, Mr. Maldonado's seat, to be able to now go in there and try and get it back in the Democratic column so that it would put him just one vote shy of a bulletproof two-thirds majority in the Senate. Well, members, does anyone believe that this is the kind of bipartisanship that the people of California have asked us to engage in? Quoting from Mr. Obama, he said the people want us to care less about our jobs and more about their jobs. So once you strip the facade of nonpartisanship away, there's no reason to confirm Mr. Maldonado. We are going to have an election in 90 days or less, and the people will be able to choose who they want out of a system that produces campaigns, public campaigns, and not vote for the candidate that the governor, that the Senate leader, and that Mr. Maldonado want. And quite frankly, I don't think the state would really be that worse off without it, simply because I don't think, it's my guess, but I don't think most people even know what a lieutenant governor does. I've been here for 20 years, and I'm not sure I know what the value of that office is. But I do know that through the years, the legislature has simply created duties for the lieutenant governor just to justify the position. So far he sits on the Board of Trustees for State College System, the UC Board of Regents. He sits on the State Lands Commission, and he sits on, or he chairs the Commission on Economic Development, whatever that is. But with respect to the UC Regents and State University system, he's an ex officio member, so he doesn't even vote. And the Lands Commission, he appoints a representative to sit and attend in his or her place. So I don't think that it would make a big difference. And because of that fact, I've joined with my colleague, Mr. Jeffries, to support ACA 30 to abolish the office altogether. Now, Governor and Mr. Steinberg, how's that for bipartisanship? If the governor had desired for this to be a nonpartisan process, he would have appointed someone who would have agreed to not run for the office in 90 days. Mr. Steinberg would have insisted on it, as did Governor Gray Davis when he appointed Mr. Lowe, a former judge, to take the place of Republican Chuck Quackenbush when Chuck Quackenbush resigned his office. Now, in closing, the bitter irony here, and this is very bitter, because you have to understand, I challenged Willie Brown on the floor. I was a member of the so-called Gang of Five. I've crossed the line and voted for Republicans on key policy issues that the Speaker opposed. And I didn't get an appointment for it. I got put on the top floor of this building in one of the smallest offices in this Capitol. The bitter irony here of Mr. Steinberg and Mr. Schwarzenegger's support of Maldonado and the warning that we are getting about being nonpartisan is that between those two, the two parties have stacked the deck with a candidate who offers as proof of his nonpartisan credentials the fact that he supports open primaries. Open primaries allow the people to vote for whoever they want to vote, no matter the party. And the purpose of the open primary is to prevent the parties from stacking the deck, to prevent the parties from doing exactly what the governor, the Senate leader, and Mr. Maldonado is doing here.
With respect, Mr. Calderon,
If that's nonpartisanship, count me out.